question for you today. What is trauma? Do you know? Or do you just think you know? I found that even though this word is tossed around generously in our society, very few people actually understand what trauma really is. We're going to take a deep dive look into that subject today. So by the end of this video, you'll be solidly in the I know what it is category. We can't heal from something we don't fully understand, nor can we help anyone else heal if we don't understand. And I can tell you from years of experience, we also can't rely solely on the medical or the mental health professionals who we think are supposed to know about trauma to take care of this piece of things. Through much sad experience, we've learned that most of them don't fully understand it themselves, and an overwhelming majority don't even get it at all. So it is up to us as survivors to learn as much as we can on our own and to take charge of our own healing process. Clearly defined, trauma is physical, emotional, psychological, and or neurological injury that results from deeply painful, terrifying, or distressing events that are outside the range of human experience and overwhelm a person's ability to process or adequately cope. That's kind of a mouthful, so let's break that down. Let's start with the injury piece. Trauma truly is an injury, often that affects the physical body on the outside, but it's the brain, the nervous system, and the emotions that carry the brunt of it. The wounds created by trauma aren't always visible on the surface, but that doesn't make them any less real or any less important. Trauma can leave very deep emotional, psychological, and nervous system wounds that can remain fresh and active long after the initial bumps and bruises of the physical body have healed. And unfortunately, we can't just wish trauma away. We can't sweep it under the rug or pretend it didn't happen. A lot of people try, and it does not work. It will always find a way out, because the truth is the trauma did happen and it left a mark. But the good news is that with some hard work and some proper intervention and a good support system, just like any other injury, trauma can heal. Now let's talk about the painful and distressing part of things. Traumatic events aren't just unpleasant, embarrassing, scary, or difficult things that happen to us. Traumatic experiences are the things that shake us to our core. They turn everything upside down. They make us question our own sanity and our own reality. And they can also challenge or even shut down our ability to cope in the world as we once knew it. Now let's talk about the range of normal experience that is part of the definition of trauma. Trauma can be caused by any number of disturbing events. There's a couple of important things to remember about this. First, just because something is common or it happens to a lot of people doesn't mean that it's normal or that we should automatically be able to deal with it. And regardless of what other people might say, most people truly don't experience these same things themselves. And if they did, they didn't experience in the same way that you did. And it can also be that the normal things that happened went horribly wrong, happened suddenly, and did so without any warning or preparation time. So 1 minute life was normal and good and happy, and the next minute everything was shattered and turned upside down. Trauma can also occur within the context of relationships. This is where things get sneaky too. Sometimes that trauma is very obvious and very easy to spot, and other times it's very subtle, very stealthy, and very covert. In fact, sometimes it looks like on the outside, the people who are hurting us are glorious and wonderful and good and well liked by the rest of the world. So one may or may not even recognize that what they've experienced within the context of relationships is actually trauma until after the damage has already been done. There's no need for comparison when it comes to trauma. Trauma is trauma regardless of the details. It doesn't matter how many people experience the same type of things, or even if society has normalized those events. Nor does it matter if someone else went through something worse. It's all still trauma, and it still leaves a mark. That last piece is overwhelm. Overwhelm is what separates trauma from ordinary adverse experiences. We all go through hard things, and it's normal to feel a wide range of emotions during or after stressful or unpleasant events. However, the human body was not equipped to handle the extreme stress that comes with trauma. When traumatic events happen, it's like an avalanche. We're hit with all kinds of sensory input, including sights, sounds, and smells associated with what is going on. Plus, we have all of the emotions that are associated with that event, such as fear, shock, disbelief, disgust, and denial. Those emotions are often so intense that the body instinctively and temporarily shuts down as a means of survival and protection. The real kicker comes at the end of the event, after all the big scary stuff has passed. If sufficient opportunities for support, processing, and recovery, both physically and emotionally, aren't available shortly after the event has happened, everything associated with that traumatic event will end up getting stored in the brain, the body, and the nervous system to allow us to move forward with life. It's like our body and our nervous systems just kind of build a little cocoon around it so that we can move forward and function. However, those things can all easily come to the surface and easily be re-triggered whenever a similar threat is detected in the future. That's actually why we don't just get over trauma and why it doesn't get better with time. In fact, in many cases, it actually gets worse. To wrap things up, we've touched on 4 different things that define trauma and separate it from normal experiences. Number 1, trauma is an injury. And because it's an injury, it can heal just like anything else does. Number 2, trauma is what happens on the inside because of the deeply painful, terrifying, or distressing events that happen on the outside. Number 3 is that trauma occurs when something happens outside the range of normal experience. And the final piece is overwhelm. Truly traumatic events are things that are so big, so consuming, that they overwhelm all of the body, mind, and emotional response systems. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to leave a comment. Also, be sure to check out the show notes for links to trauma recovery resources and to subscribe to my channel for more great tips and insights related to healing from trauma. This really can happen. Let's do it!